Right then, good afternoon. We're now back with the eye, and hopefully this will be the final part. So now we're working on the lady's left eye. So now we've just got this blue bit of eyeshadow to do here, then the skin tones, and then also we've got the eyebrow here. Okay, so we're using the same colours. So I've got my list of colours here. I've got my protective paper to protect my work so that it doesn't, so I'll put it over that bit there for now. Okie dokie, so we're going to start around this part of the eye here. So we've got we're going to start by doing this out of the outlet, the eyelid here. Excuse me, it's Sunday morning and I'm a little bit oof. And then we've got some of the dark blue eyeshadow here, again some of the eyelashes on top, and then we've got this lighter part of the skin, and then this is where we're going to be going into where the skin tones start to change slightly. We have got the highlight coming up there. So we're going to be following the same sort of steps as we've done before, but over on this eye here. So let's have a look and let's start. So for this we're going to be using, we've got the blues to start with. So we've got the usual candidates. We've got an ocean blue, a sapphire, a mid ultramarine, and there is also a dark ocean blue, a dark indigo, and let's have a look. I think I've got midnight. Yes, I've got a midnight black, or midnight black, which is a really dark colour if we need it, and then we'll be using black for the eyelashes when we've finished with this section just here. Right, so I'm going to start by putting in a little bit of a light blue. So I'm using light pressure and I'm holding the pencil quite far back, and I'm just sort of going to cover the area with a shading motion. So I'm following the direction of form, which is going to be coming down here, and I don't want it in a straight line. It's got to have sort of it's got to finish with like a smooth edge. So I am doing it sort of I'm lifting the pressure off as I come down this side here. Okay, now just across this here we have got this rim to put in. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mark that in. So I've turned my pencil this side and I moved a little bit further down. I'm just going to put a little bit more pressure on, and I'm just going to mark in, watching the reference photograph very carefully. So it starts off quite narrow at this end. It's coming up and it comes round here. Okay. And it comes round. Just turn my hand that way so you can see. So I'm still not putting a lot of pressure on. It's still quite light pressure. It's probably equivalent to pressure 2. So it's still fairly light. So it comes around here. Now this is where it gets darker as it disappears into there. So we are going to darken this up, but I'm just going to put that in just so that we can see where that's going. Okay, and then the rest of it is going to be coming in this direction. Okay. So I'm using a shading motion. I pulled my fingers further back on the pencil. I'm tongue-tied this morning. Okay, and I'm constantly looking at this reference photograph because it tends to turn. So we're working, you've got to remember this is the bridge of the nose, and then this will be going in towards, so we're going in towards the cheekbone here. Okay, and it comes all the way round, and so just keep your eye on your reference photograph to see how far out this blue area comes. So we're using light pressure and we're just putting a light coating down to see where we're going with the blue. So we've got quite a considerable amount more blue on this side than we had on the other side. And that's because this eye is more forward. I'm just going to press out some of these. Still got a couple of the pencil lines marking my eye bits in there. Okay. So a light shading motion. Okay. So you can see there we've got, let me zoom in so you can actually see that. So you can see how light the pressure is there. Okay. So we've got this line that's going that way there, which is the representing the eyelid. Okay. And that's going to go up there and it's going to get very, very dark. And then this is, so this is the corner of the eye here, so it comes out there. Just lift your pressure up at this end of the colour. Okay, and then we slightly turn that way, we're going towards the cheekbone. Okay, so we've just got that very, very light covering down. So I'll zoom back out now. Okay, so you can see where we're working. Okay, so that's a bit better for you. Right, so that's the light blue I've used to start with. Now what I'm going to also do, I'm using a salmon colour. And there should be a flesh, where's my flesh pink? Got a flesh pink somewhere. Where did I put my flesh pink? It's here somewhere. So we start. That's the white, wheat, that's it, got a fresh pink somewhere. Just bear with me. There we go, I've got my fresh pink. So I'm just going to sharpen this up a little bit. It's a little bit blunt. I usually sharpen them before I start. We've all been a bit rushed this week because we're ready for opening tomorrow morning, so I can't wait. Right then, so I've got my flesh pink now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just mark in with some light strokes the flesh colour around here. So I'm going to go up as far as this, as where the eyebrow is coming, and come in here a little bit. We've got a bit more orange to finish off here. We've got very light colours down here and round here as well. And then this goes into the orange again, and then we come out here into the flesh colour. So all I'm doing is so we can finish off these colours around the eye. I'm just going to sort of fill in here. I mean, thinking about it, we may need another video just to do the skin tone, and that'll be the end of it. I really want to get this eye finished though first. So I'm using the lightest pink, which is a flesh pink on the light fast. That's it. That's the colour there. So it's sort of it's like it's a whitish colour. It's very, very pale. In the polychromos, you could use the beige red, as it's called now, but that used to be called light flesh. You could use that colour, and there's a couple of good colours in the luminance range that you could use as well. But if you are using light fast, then obviously we're using the flesh pink. Okie dokie. So now we have got some highlight areas in here. So you could, if you wanted, you could use your embossing tool. Or you could just do it with a with the slice afterwards, or even with a gel pen. Now, because it's quite a solid block in some places, I'm actually going to try and use. I'll use a little bit of this embossing tool. I haven't got my very. Oh, where's the fine one? Forgot to find one here. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mark in, so I'll put a little bit of pressure on here, just so it puts indents in. Now I'm using a scrubbing sort of effect, which is I'm just moving it's in circular motions, but sort of all over, because if you look at it, the highlights are quite broken up while still looking quite clumpy. So I don't think you'll be able to see it on the camera, but I'll lift it up just so see if you can see it. So it's sort of there. I've sort of scrubbed it. No, I don't think you're going to really see it. So you scrub it. I'm doing these circle motions. Look, I'll zoom in. Let me just zoom in a little bit. Find the zoom button. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm doing a circular motion, but I'm also filling quite a bit of the area in, and then I'm just sort of dragging little bits out as we come out of that area. So as long as you're looking at your reference photograph. So I've got some indentations in there. Now, I've noticed in the blue section we'll have some as well coming out. So what I'm doing is I'm actually just gently, and they are sort of scribbly lines, but make sure that you are going in the direction of form, as we call it. So there's a couple of spots there, and then it comes out as we come here. We've also got some under here where the eyelashes will be, so if you want you can actually use your embossing tool, and wherever you see these sort of highlights, if you want to just mark in, because these won't be really white, so you'll see the light blue when we start to darken these areas. You'll see the dark blue show up more. Okay, so, and then if you need to, you can always complete that later on with a white gel pen as well. Okay, so that's, I've used that just to see if that will work, how that works. So I've got them in, so I've done that now, so I don't have to worry too much about them. I'm going to use I've got my my Flesh Pink. Now, it's the fleshy bit, it does come up into this area here, so I'm using small circular motions in a light pressure. Okay, now when you're doing flesh tones and you're doing the skin area, you do want it to be fairly smooth, so the smaller your circular motions the better, but because this is the base coat, you don't have to do them quite as small. Now I'm just going to go into this, oops, let me zoom back out, sorry, that's my fault. Zoom back out again, oh dear, not having a good morning this morning. There we go. Zoom back in just a little bit, there we go. So, coming around this area as I was, I'm not doing them quite as tiny as what I will do because it's the base coat and I'm using a light pressure. Okay, but I'm getting myself well into practice by doing circular motions. I'm coming here now and I'm coming across into the blue area that we've just done. So I'm sort of crossing over a little bit into that area and coming out of it. Again, I'm doing circular motions, but I am following the line of form, which is going now towards the cheekbone. It's hard to see this colour because it is a very, very light colour. It's not that different to the paper. But as you move around with your eyes and your pencil, you know, you'll be able to see that you're putting that layer down. Okay, so I'm just going to bring that right the way down here into this corner. In fact, I'm going to fetch it down now to the bottom line of the picture there. Okay, so that's loose circular motions, light pressure, but as we build up the colour, then obviously we will be doing tighter and smaller circular motions. So we've got a band of the flesh colour around this area now. Coming up here, I've marked my eyebrow, it's here. So what I'm doing now, let me just move back out slightly now so you can see better. That's it. Okay, so looking at my reference photograph, I'm just going to put some fleshy colour. It's going to come round here. This orange is going to come out this way a little bit into the nose area there. Okay. So you can put the fleshy tone there, it doesn't really matter. But then underneath the eyebrow, we're going to have the orange is going to come up to here. But then it's going to start to turn into the fleshy colour. So again, I'm using circular motions, keeping it loose. So I'm using the side of the pencil and I'm just putting in a little bit of that light flesh there, just so we've got that base down. I'm going over the whole of the eyebrow area and coming out just at the other side. Okay, so that means when we put the actual eyebrows on there, we've got the skin tone underneath. Which you will see through some of the hairs. You can be able to see that. Okay, And then we're just coming a bit further down into this eye so that we can blend the makeup area in. And down here again, that's it. So I've got my base now. So the base is coming basically from here all the way around here, and then it's just a base layer of the Flesh Pink or whatever colour you're using for your skin tone. The lightest part it will be. Okay, so now let's get back to the blues. Right then, so like on this side, on the other side, we used the sapphire blue for the eyelid. If you look on the reference photograph, you'll see that it's quite a prominent blue there. Okay, so I'm just going to put in where that eyelid is. I'm just using very small shading strokes, marking in. So it's going to come up here and it gets a little bit wider as it comes out of this eye section here. And that's going to be darkened up in a little while. Okay. And then as it comes to this side here, got this area here. So it's quite, and then it sort of widens out into this eyelid just there as you get to this, where the tear duct is there. Okay. So we can fetch that out a little bit more there. So we've now got the eyelid in place, more or less. We will be darkening that up in a little while. Right then, so using the same colour, I went over the area that we did the blue earlier, but I'm not going to come quite as far down because this blue we need to fade, like we did on the other side, we need it to fade into the skin and fade out a little bit. So I'm using light strokes again, and I'm following the direction of form. So we're coming out from the top of the eyelid now and down. So I'll just zoom in a little bit so you can see the strokes, how we do that. Okay, a little bit more. So that's the eyelid there, and then what happens is we're coming up and over and round, like that, up, round. And if you look, this is where it starts then to go that way a little bit, because it's going towards the cheekbone. And if you look, I've got quite a rough area here, and we've got some of the lighter blue areas there. We're going to blend that away in a bit. Okay, so if you take it from your eyelid, so it's sort of, you're going up, over and round. Okay. Now at this point, I'm just going to mark in. If you look carefully, we've got some creases in the skin just here. Let me show you, just here, we've got some little creases in the skin. So if we mark those in, so they're going to go sort of from here. So what I'm going to do is I'm using the same pencil, I'm just going to put in a scrumble line, basically. Not too much pressure, a little bit more than what we're using there. And I'm going to fetch it out here. And that's where it disappears, down here. And there's a couple of them there. They're just the wrinkles in the eye skin there. Okay. So just so I know where they're going. And then I'm just going to continue doing this. Keep watching your reference photograph because you want to mark in roughly where this blue is going. So it's going to come round here and then it comes back up to this end of the eye there. Okay, so it's up, round and over. That gives it that rounder shape. Okay, and then as you come round here, try and keep your strokes close together. Okay. And then here it just sort of disappears towards the corner of the eye. Okay. Like that. There. So I've got the basis of the area of where we're going to be putting the blue. So I'm just going to get a I'm just going to get my white. Just have the white somewhere. So I'm just now going to do gently circular motion, and I'm just coming over this area. I'm just sort of blending it in. Just so that the bottom part of the blue mainly is sort of blending in, so you can see there which it is gently blending in. So I'm using circular motions. I'm going to move across the eyelid as well. So I'm just blending this first sort of layer. So I'm not putting a lot of pressure on it. I'm just actually trying to push some of the pigment around from the paper there. I mean, you can actually see a slight difference from there to there. This area looks a little bit smoother than this does. So so if we do this area now, and you can see how this area now is just starting to smooth out. Okay, right then, so let's have a look now at, so we've used the sapphire, so I'm now going to be looking at the, we need some of the ocean blue. So the ocean blue, if we look, which is the darker part of the blue, is concentrated majority around this section of the eye here. And that is because we've got the shadow, it's shadowed slightly because of the eyelashes here. So we can put some of this. So if you look, it's sort of arced round to about there. Okay, and then this will darken this bit up with the sapphire blue a little bit more. Okay. So, again, the same motion, it's up and round. So keep looking at your reference photograph, sorry. If you keep looking at your reference photograph there, so it sort of comes up there. Okay, so I'm fetching it from there. Now, as I'm hitting this lighter blue, what I need to do is just pull my pencil up a little bit more, so you're lifting it off of the paper, and that's how you get that faded look. So your paper's there, you're putting your pencil down there, and then as you come down, just lift it off a little bit, and it fades into that other area there. Okay, and now you can start to see, this is where I did the embossing. So it's not going where I've done the embossing. So that is what's giving us that little bit of a highlight, which is what we were after. Okay. So from the eyelid, it's up, over, exactly the same as we did before. Follow that direction. Keep checking your reference photograph, so when you see me stop, that's what I'm doing, and I'm just putting in a few more of these crease lines going that way that we're seeing. So I'm just darkening some of them up. Okay. I'll do that in a minute. There we go. So I'm coming round here, so we've got this other side here where we've got these bits of highlights as well. And this is where it starts to turn. Okay. Up and over. Up and over. Okay. Okay, now this is where I'm going to start and lift off. I'm going to put a little bit here around the top. This is where it gets really dark here. So I'm just going to start doing some circular motions. I'm going over the top eyelid as well, just here, because we need to darken that up as it fades into that, or goes into that shadow area a little bit. Okay, and then just lift it off as you come back into this blue, just to fade it in. Okay, so it's like blending your colours. Same on this side here. It's going to get really, it gets sort of really dark here, and then you'll lift your pencil up as it comes back into this blue section, like that. Okay. So you can see now we're starting to build this colour up quite a bit. Now then, I'm just going to go back over, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over with a bit more pressure with using this pale, so the mid ultramarine. So you don't always have to use a white to blend. You can use another coloured pencil that is in conjunction with this. So because we've got this bit of pale blue fading into the flesh, I'm using the light blue now to actually blend, again, this layer. Okay, so small circular motions.
There you go, nice cup of tea, my darling. Love you.
Excuse the interruption. Right, so circular motions, fairly loose pressure over all of the eye where the blue makeup is. Just blending them colours nicely together. And pulling it and just releasing your pressure as you come into the flesh toned area. Okay, there we go. So you can see now it's starting to take shape. You see how we shadowed it in there, so it's going disappearing. So again, I'm just going to go back. I'm actually going to put a little bit of the indigo in here. I'm sort of coming round where these little bits of crease lines are. Okay, but then also I'm actually going to do from the top here of the eyelid. I'm just checking my photograph where this darker blue's coming down. Okay, just checking it all the time. Okay, now I'm going to put a little bit of dark on this section here where the eyelid is, because it is darker than what we've got it. Okay, and it just, the lightest bit is about here. So I'm actually just lightly using a darker blue just to darken the eyelid a little bit more there. Okay. And then I'm just doing the up and over. Now this colour I'm using is the indigo, because I'm only using light pressure, but I want to sort of darken this area section here. Okay. And then as I come round, I'm changing, and I'm going to go on to the sapphire blue again, because this section here, as you can see here, it's a bit brighter blue than what it is there. So I'm changing one colour to the other, so I'm just overlapping slightly on some of the colours. And I'm just going to fetch this one round here. So that's showing that it's a little bit brighter there. Again, I'm just going to use a little bit of where's the flesh? So I'm going to get the light flesh this time to blend with, rather than the, where is it now? Where's it gone? I've just had it, excuse me. while I find my light flesh. It's because it's disappeared in there. So now I'm just going to go back over here, and I'm using the light flesh to blend this blue. So can you see how we've got sort of a gradual change from the dark blue to the light blue there? Okay. Pulling that, so it's only around the bottom side of the blue and into this skin tone that we're doing, using this flesh pink. Okay, softening it all in. So now I'm just going to go back with the ocean blue, and I'm going to use circular motions, but still following that direction. So I'm using very small light pressure circular motion, so it's going to be darker up at this top end there, and then as I come down, gradually start to release the pressure so it just disappears gently into that lighter blue area. Okay, so right next to these highlights we do have some dark sections, and that's what makes the light work, is the light and dark contrast. Okay, so again down to about there, and then just release the pressure as we come away, and then it just narrows up this side here. Okay, and then release the pressure as we come down. But I'm just trying to fill in a little bit more of the tooth of the paper. Okay. And it's really dark in this corner, and then again, as we come out, just release the pressure. Okay, and fade that in there. Okay, so that's faded in. So that side's a little bit darker because it's more in shadow, but this side we've still got the darkness, but it's still lighter than the other side. You'll see that when we pull it back out. Right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to put the eyelashes in, these bottom eyelashes. So like we did on the other side here, the bottom eyelashes, the top ones have come up and over, but the bottom ones come from this eyelid and then over that way. So you can see from there, if you remember how we did them, we sort of fetched them out. So they're shorter, they're more in clumps than individuals. And as I say, these were the false eyelashes at the top, so these are the natural ones at the bottom. So we're going to use the black. When I can get hold of my black, where's my black? Come along with the black. It's down here. There we go. Oops. So you want a nice sharp point on your black. Now, you might find it more beneficial to move your paper around. Some people like to, so if you excuse me, this is upside down. Some people like to put the pencil on and then push off like that. And some people prefer to do it so it's like that. It's entirely up to you. But to make them look natural, you need to hold your pencil a little bit further back, put the pencil on, push off, and then just release the pressure. You don't want it, and don't forget these don't need to be as long as the others. Okay, so now I've just made a cock up there. I can just see I've gone into the blue a little bit too much. So what I'm going to use is I'm using my rubber. Okay, I'm just going to use my Tombow. These are why these Tombows are really nice. Good. So all I'm doing is I'm just going in here and I'm just going to gently just rub that away there. Okay, so it's gone. It's in the lighter blue area as well, so that's not too bad. Just keep checking your reference, because when you come to this side, they sort of curl that way. So that way they curl that side, and then here they just curl up a little bit there. And you want some of them, it doesn't matter if some of them cross over. You don't have as many eyelashes either at the bottom as what you do at the top. Right, I've done that again there, so I'm just going to fill that in with some of the blue. That's it. There we go. So if you look, you've got clumps there, they get a bit finer up there. So they're going that way there, then they come sort of a little bit that way, and then they curl that way up that end there. And they're in clumps, as I say, they're not in too many individual bits. And when you're going over where you've put the emboss in, as long as you press in enough, you'll get so that it's giving you the impression you've got your eyelashes there and you've got some highlight coming through. Okay, so that bit of blue off there, cut a bit of blue on there, that's right. So I'm just going to get my flesh pink. Okay. Circular motions. And come all the way down here. So I'm coming to the edge of my picture now, right down here. So I'm just going to make sure I've got this flesh pink all the way down there. So you can see it's pulling some of the blue pigment in, not a lot, just a little bit, which is fine because if you look at the makeup on the reference photograph, that's what's happening. You've got some of the blue coming down into this fleshy pink area. Okay, where's my brush gone? Just had it, that's there. Okay, so brush that area off. So that's the blue sort of. So let me, if I sort of zoom out now a little bit, you can see both eyes. Oops, wrong way. Right, okay, so you can see we've got the two eyes. This one is slightly predominant coming this way, but we've still got plenty of colour to put in here as well, so that will change it a little bit, but we've got this bit here. What I am going to do is I'm just going to start and put, just so I can get some shape to this nose, I'm going to use what we got. Got the dusky pink, okay, so I'm just putting in a little bit of this dusky pink around the bottom of this eye here. So I'm doing very light, quite loose circular motions. And I'm just looking at the reference photograph all of the time, because this is quite a bit of a fleshy pink. It's a bit darker than what we've got. So coming down here, okay, but then just where this comes out here, if you look, all this area here is quite light. So I'm going to leave that. This is where this makeup comes into this lighter area here. And then we've got this fleshy tone here, the pink. So it's a little bit darker. So I'm just actually marking this bit in. And it comes all the way down to the bottom here and round this bit here. And into that bit there. Okay. So I'm just looking at the skin tones and making sure I'm plotting them in basically. And then we've got this highlight up here, this quite strong highlight. So avoid that, just leave that for now. And then this comes back into here. Okay, so that's the lighter area there. And then we've got this bit slightly darker pinky colour. Always make sure you're going in the direction, so we're going towards the cheekbone there. Okay. So that's that bit of skin for now. Right, so I'm going to come up slightly now and I'm going to work on the top part of this eye makeup. I'm just going to put a couple of the eyebrows in so you can see how far up we're working with the eyebrows. I'll start by putting a little bit of the taupe. This is the taupe colour, so it's like a browny grey, purpley grey. So if you just look at your reference photograph and mark in a couple of the... So they come up. So the eye colour comes up to about there. So just checking the angle. Yes, it will just come down here a little bit more. So I'm just actually marking in roughly where this eyebrow goes, and then also the direct. So if you look, they're quite vertical, and then they come round this way. They go up there a little bit. So these come like that, and then it comes all the way round to here. So that's where the eyebrows roughly are going to be. Okay, so we've got to get the makeup into there. So the makeup colours we were using are, we've got an autumn red, we had a bit of apricot, we've got the sandstone, the sienna, where's the autumn? Oh, I've got the autumn red, and we have a dark orange somewhere. Let's have a look. Yep, we've got dark orange. There's a bit of Venetian red as well we may need. They're the colours. So we've got quite a few colours going on for the top eyeshadow area. Okie dokie. So, as I say, we've got some light flesh tone here coming out from the eyebrow. So it comes more or less around, just around the bottom there of the... And then here we've got a deeper section. So again, using very light pressure. Okay, and just, well, in fact, no, you can use pressure 2, so just slightly more than the very, very light one. Okay. It's hard to see because it is a light colour, but I just want to make sure that that's in. So what I'm going to start with is, I'm actually going to start with the sandstone, I think. So where we've got to here with this colour, now we came to here. So if you look at your reference photograph, it fades off here into the skin tone, but we've still got a little bit of the colour there. So I'm not going to put, this is going to be really, really light. Like that. So that comes up. And it comes into the skin tone about there, and then comes up here into the eyebrow. Okay, so I'm using very, very light pressure here. I'm just going to come to there in a minute. So if you look, the colour does change slightly here because we're going into a skin tone. So what I'm going to use here is I'm going to use a little bit of this salmon. And I'm just sort of going over the lighter area with a little bit extra pressure. Excuse me, with the salmon. Okay. Around there, because that's where it's going to go into the skin tone. So the salmon is part of the skin tone range of the colours. Okay. Put a little bit more pressure on there for that. Okay. And then I'm also going to put a little bit of the cinnamon, which is another one of the skin tones. And this is sort of, so I'm coming from the eye colour, But I'm not going to go as far as we've just been with the salmon colour. It's just in the middle section here we've got this sort of dark skin tone area. So the salmon colour is this bit here. So we've just got to sort of fade this bit into it and go back up into the eye makeup. Okay, so I'm doing circular motions. I lift the pressure off when I hit the salmon pink, and then as I'm coming further up towards the eye makeup, I'm just going to put a little bit more pressure on. I'll keep looking at my reference photograph to see, because the colour changes up as we're coming up here as well. It's going more into a skin tone, but you've got to make that as smooth a transition as possible. So right on the edges it's very light pressure, and then as we come in further it gets a little bit darker. Okay, there, so you can see we've got this colour change there. And now I'm also just going to put in a little bit of the taupe right in the centre bit there, because we have got a little bit where the skin is sort of, this is where it's going to come out and hit the light. We've got the eyebrow bone there, then we've got this eye that sinks in, so this is the part that starts to sink in. So I'm just going to put that little bit there to start. Okay, so I'll zoom in so you can see roughly what I've done there. If I can find the zoom. There. Okay, so the salmon pink is sort of here. Okay, that's the salmon pink area, and then it goes into the flesh tones down there. And I've got a bit of the taupe here. So that is representing the start of this shape here. I'm just mapping in roughly where we're going. Okay, so I'm just zoom back out. Right, so now I know this is now where we're transitioning into the actual the eye makeup colour, which is fine. So I'm just going to tilt this slightly. So I'm going to start now with the apricot, which is more of the yellowy colour to start with, but I'm only doing this very lightly because there isn't that much of that. There's a little bit of a shimmer of it across here. But it is part of the colouring, so I'm just going to sort of come up here a little bit and then fade it off about there, just before we hit that flesh colour. Okay. So you can see I start there, and then I just lift, as I'm going up, I just lift the pressure off. Okay, I'm coming around here. Again, just lift that pressure off there. Okay, so I've mapped in roughly where my eye makeup colour is going to sort of finish and start to go into some skin tones. Again, I'm just going to put in a little bit of the dusky pink, going from, I've got the light flesh there and we've got the apricot we've just put in. So sort of in between them, I'm just sort of, or across both of them. So I'm going from the apricot into the light flesh. I'm using a bit of this dusky pink. And again, I'm using light circular motions, but going in the direction of form. So coming round the eyebrow there and off on the side of the picture there. Okay. And then just get the light flesh again and blend those two colours in. So I'm getting this smoother effect as well, but I'm just using the light flesh to blend those colours. Okay. There we go. So they're now starting to blend in nicely. So now I want to introduce some of the reds. So now I've got the autumn red, which is a darker red. And I'm using small circular motions, and I'm coming up, and then I'm just, as I come towards the top there where the apricot is, I'm just releasing the pressure again as you come down towards where we got up to before. You sort of, so you start from there and then just lift it up. Keep watching that reference photograph and then pull back on your pressure, releasing the pressure as you're going into the lighter shades there. Okay, keep doing that, keep looking at your reference photograph. Light pressure as we're coming up there. So you can see now the eye makeup colour is coming further up here. Okay. And then all the way around here. Okay. Let me just turn this round slightly. It's quite dark down here coming up. Okay, so that's where. So again, just release the pressure as we're coming up into the lighter sections. And increase the pressure as we're coming down into the darker. That's it. There we go. So now you can see how we're doing this this colour here. So the next colour I'm going to use is, I want the dark orange. Okay. So again, we're doing another layer. Coming up, releasing the pressure. Okay. And start to release your pressure as you're coming up here to the lighter sections. And there we go. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use the flesh again, and I'm just sort of I'm blending these colours now. So I'm just going over with circular motions, applying just a little bit more pressure than what we have been, just to give it a bit more of a smooth. So if you can see, it's getting a lot smoother there than what it is over this side at the moment. Okay. So what I'm doing the blending, so I can come right up here into the eyebrows, and that's blending all those colours and the skin tones at the top there nicely. It's getting rid of the tooth of the paper, a bit more there. Okay. But on this piece, it's nice just to see a little bit of the paper come through, because it actually acts as a little bit, if you look at the skin pores, you've got like little highlighty bits, so the paper coming through actually gives you that impression. Right then, so where's I've got the Venetian red. So I'm now looking at this section here. We've got this fold where the eyelid folds in, but as it comes out, it's a little bit darker there, but so you've got this darker section here. This is what we're dealing with now. So if you look closely at your reference photograph, it has got a direction of form, and it comes out like that. So you start from here. So you've got this really dark line, which has gone really dark there, and it comes up a bit lighter here. So we did a couple of different colours across there. So then we've got this Venetian red here that pulls off and it lightens off as we get here. So we've got that to do. And then we just added another little bit on top again, just to darken it a little bit more near to the line. So it starts to come away here. So I'm only using light pressure And I'm sort of, if you look, I'm curving my pencil, or my wrist, should I say. So I'm coming off of this mark, and I'm curving it over where the eye is there. So if you look, just gently, by doing it, I'm getting that darker, and just keep looking at my reference photograph. Because I'm lifting the pressure as I get up at this end here, it fades into that section a little bit more. Okay. And then as I come down here, this is where it gets darker, a lot darker. So I'm going over it a couple of times here. And also it looks like it's changing direction. It's coming sort of that way a little bit. That way there. So I'm using a circular motion there. It's quite a dark patch here. It gets comes out a bit wider. There's that dark patch. So keep looking at your reference photograph. You're looking for, when you're looking at reference photographs and you keep looking, just look at the section that you're doing and you'll see shapes and textures. So if you concentrate on them and direction, then what you'll find is, by doing that area, you will actually, when you pull back and look at the whole thing, it does all fit together. It's like a jigsaw puzzle, really. Okay, so I need to come out a bit more there. That's it there. Okay, so I'm just now going to use the sienna right next to the dark line. To darken it that little bit more. And then as I come off here, we're going into this section where it starts to hit where we put the taupe here. So we need to sort of pull all that together nicely. So I'm using the sienna because it does pull into that dark shadow just here. And then we've got a bit of shadow coming around there. That's it. There we go. Okay, and then I'm going to use where's the browny colour we've got? Natural brown. So right next to that, I'm just going to put a little bit, I'm just pulling a little bit of the brown just to darken it right next to the actual where the eyelid sinks in, just a little bit there, so it creates that little bit of extra shadow there, but you can still see the crease. Okay, and then that's where that comes out, just about there. Okay, so that's that done. So I'm just now going to finish off, right, so up the top here we've got, so I'm just going to put a little bit of cinnamon just here. The skin tone is a little bit darker at this end as it's coming up from the eyeshadow up to the actual eyebrow. It's a little bit darker in tone, but you can see all these tonal colours blend in. So let me just go in a little bit deeper. There you go. So I'm actually going over the eyeshadow colour as well, because as I say, underneath the eyeshadow is skin. That's what it is. So I've got about a pressure 2, pressure 3 coming up here into the eyebrow. Okay. Like that. And then as we come round, so here is the lightest section of the eyebrow. This is where the brow bone sticks out the most. So release the pressure a little bit there on the cinnamon, fetch it round this side and just put a little bit here. Okay, which then should emphasise the lighter area that we're going to have. So what I'm going to do is I'm just actually going to go over the little bit of the, got an oyster white here out of the light at fast range. I think in the luminance there's a pink white that you could use. It's just a variation of a white. It's got a very, very pale pink tone. So where we've got this really light area, I'm actually going to put quite a bit of pressure on there and fill in that lighter area around where the eyebrow is. Go into the cinnamon, what we've just done, so that blends it in nicely. So it's blending all those colours in. So that when we pull back, what you should see, oops, you can see that we've got this, it looks a lot lighter. So because we've got this darker section of skin tone around it, but it's not a dark colour, you know, we do, it is quite hard to define, but we have got it there. And then what will happen is when we put the eyebrows in, as soon as we put the eyebrows in, it'll stick out even more, okay? So I've got my protective paper there, so I'm not causing any, I'm not rubbing anything away. So let's now get the eyebrows done. So I'm going to start again with the taupe, sharp pencil for doing your eyebrows. So the colours we're going to use for the eyebrows are the taupe, which is a grey colour, purpley grey, the sienna, natural brown, sharpen that one up, and then we've got a bit of the black or the midnight black, but I'm going to use the black. Okay, so they're the colours I'm going to use on this eyebrow here. Okay, so the other eyebrow was a bit more in shadow, so it does look a bit darker and it's got a bit more brown, blacky tones than brown. This one's going to have quite a lot more brown and just have some black tones at this end. Okie dokie, so like I said, I'm going to start with the taupe. So we're going to start, so check where, so if you get your picture, just so that we get them in the right place, you sort of check the angle with your pencil. You've got that sort of angle from these eyebrows to that eyebrow starting. And then if you just roughly transfer that there, you've got an idea of where these eyebrows start on this side. Okay, so I've got this, oops, my pencil's broke. I've got another one here, so I'm going to start there. So, again, I'm just using, I just put the pencil on and I'm just lifting it more or less straight off. And they do start quite vertical. Okay, but you'll get some that cross, some short ones, like that, and then it starts to go over that way. Okay, the trick is not to make them look all sort of like, you don't want to go like that in a straight line. So the idea is you put your pencil on and you just, if you're holding it further back, so if it's short, you sort of just put your pencil on, lift straight off, and you'll get your short hairs. For your longer hairs, you just go push it a little bit further and then lift it up. But if you look, by doing that, you'll get natural, and they do cross over, so you'll get a more natural looking fur line. Plus, at the edges, at the ends, it's lifting off, so you're getting a more natural look there. Okay. So keep looking at your reference photograph and see how the shape is. So it's quite vertical here, and then this is where it does start to. So if you find it more comfortable, you can lift, you can change your direction of your paper. Comes up here a little bit. Like that. Don't forget to shape them as well, however they are shaped on the young lady's face. Okay. Better. And the more upright you hold your pencil, then the sharper or the thinner the line will be. Okay. And take them off the paper there. So you've got the basis there of the eyebrow. Okay. I think it might just come across here a little bit more. Line it up. So I'm lining it up with the eye, with the pencil again. Yep. That's about right there. Okay. So now I'm going to go in with I'm going to go in with the natural brown. Okay. So you can see I'm holding the pencil, I'm not holding it quite so flat to the paper, I'm holding it a little bit higher, and that is giving me a much thinner stroke, which is ideal for these eyebrows. Okay. So where they're thicker or where they look thicker, just put more pencil marks closer together. I'm just going to turn my paper around, I find it a little bit easier, so if I do it that way, I can get the direction a little bit more natural. So it's paper, lift, paper, lift, paper, lift. There we go. Okay. Now I've got some taupe again. In fact, I'll tell you what I'm going to put in there. There's a little bit of a reddy brown, so I'm going to put a little bit of the autumn red in, to be honest, but very lightly and very sparingly. If you look, I'm just putting it in very lightly. Not putting that much in. Just give it that little bit more of a reddy tone, yeah. Now I'm just putting in some of the black. So be careful with this black. You don't want to put too much pressure, because otherwise they're just gonna look a little bit odd. All it is you want some darker areas of where the eyebrows are, but you don't necessarily want it to look black. Okay. So I'm just going to go back over a little bit with the brown. I've noticed up here at the top we've got some odd ones that come in this way. So if you look here at the top of your eyebrows, you've got these ones here, and they sort of come in. They're growing off the skin that way. So don't forget you've got those to put in as well. So it'll cross over a little bit on there, and then you just pull some more across the top there. And you have a few loose ones that come down here that grow loose in the skin. Don't forget to put those in. So just put a few loose odd ones further down. There's a couple there. They don't have to be exactly in the same place as your reference photograph. And then you've got the few odd ones that come out and curl over. So as long as you've got those there. Okay, I'm quite happy with that for now. Put a few in that way. That just thickens the eyebrow up a little bit. That's it. There we go. So if we pull back now, You see now that we've got this nice highlighted area of the eyebrow. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just actually going to put in a little bit of the, where's the skin tones gone? So I've got dusky pink here, which is a slightly darker one. And I'm just literally going over the sort of central part of the, but very lightly. So in other words, it's like glazing. So I'm glazing over this eyebrow, that's all, with the dusky pink. So it sort of blends the eyebrow a little bit, but without it losing the texture that we need as well. And then I'm just coming down underneath the eyebrow and then into that skin tone there. So that when we hold it now, you can see where this bit here goes really light. Where's the white gone? Where's the white? So we have got this very light area just there, okay? And now I'm just going to go over the whole of this eyeshadow. I'm using the white. I'm putting on quite a bit of pressure. I'm burnishing it now, so it's making the paper a lot smoother. A lot smoother. And you'll see it when I'm moving, when I fetch the zoom in a little bit more. So I'm using quite a bit of pressure. You can use just a burnisher if you want. I've explained this before, but I prefer to use pencils anyway, just pencils. Got a few little stray eyelashes here. That's it. So zoom in now. You can see now I've burnished, we've actually got a smoother finish here. It's a lot smoother, it's a bit more like that side now. It's smoothed off the same. Okay? Right then. So there we've got the eye. So you can see now it's starting to take shape, and you can tell this eye, the way that the head is positioned, this one is slightly nearer to the camera, so it's a little bit more, that's not out of focus, but it's not as crisp in focus as this one is. Right then, so we might as well just carry on now and just finish off this little bit of the skin. So we're now looking for skin tones. Okay, so for my skin tones I've got, we've got the flesh pink, which is for the really light areas. We've got a cinnamon that sort of fits in with the darker tones there. And then we've got a salmon, which is sort of a mid-tone. And also a dusky pink, which is, we've got the cinnamon down here, so it's quite, the cinnamon's quite a darkish colour. And the dusky pink, it's, the cinnamon's a little bit warmer than the dusky pink, that's all, tone-wise. And then we've also got a taupe, or Mars Violet, that we can add some sort of shadow to. So let me get those colours, the dusky pink, and the cinnamon. Okay, so those are the colours I'm going to use for the skin. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to get some white. So you can use any brand of white. And if you look where we've got, so I've put the highlight, so don't forget we did that with the embossing tool, but I'm just going to put a little bit of white over there. I'm just going to put a little bit of the white. So I'm doing it very loosely and shading down here. And then this bit here is white, coming up the nose, towards the eyebrow. And then just above this eyebrow here, we've got a little bit of light. So all I'm doing is I'm just shading in a little bit of the light, the white. I mean, we're going to be putting colour on it, but it'll just keep it that little bit lighter. So the first colour we're going to start with is the light flesh, which is the lightest colour. For skin, now because we're doing this quite close up, you're going to see texture in the skin, but normally when you're doing a portrait or skin, you're not as close up to it as this image, so it will look a lot smoother. But skin, if you look at it closely, you can see from your own hand and everything there, it's quite textured and it's got quite a lot of grooves in it and what have you. So you will have a lot of texture in this particular one because we are close up. If we were looking at a skin tone further away, like a face, say, then yes, you would have to work a lot smoother, and that's a lot harder to do. So, like doing babies, if you're doing baby's skin, what you'll find is that there's not too much tonal, there's not as much tonal difference in the skin tones, but there is some there, but it's a lot smoother. And the transitions are a lot smoother, so that is quite hard to get. The older skin has got wrinkles, it's got creases in it, so it's a bit like attacking a landscape. You have to look at it that way. And if you, like I say, if you just observe one section that you're doing and look for shapes, tones, and hues and textures, and just do that one section and then move into the next one, it should fit together pretty nicely. The other way some people like to work is they like to do the one tone all over first, the one hue colour all over first. Start with the lightest, go all over the picture, and then do it and build it up that way. So it's whatever suits your style or what you feel comfortable doing. So there isn't just one hard, fast way of doing something. I mean, I'm just showing you the tips of how I work, and you can adapt them. You may think, well, I don't like doing it that way, I want to do it this way. If you get the result that you're looking for, that's fine. That's what art is about. It's about your style, your way of doing things. But obviously, when you're starting out, if you look at how other people work, if you look at the tips they can give you, then that helps you develop your style. That's where it comes from. Everybody starts somewhere and has to start somewhere. So, you know, I'm just hoping that I can help somebody move and do the style that they want to do. So, you know, that's all I'm doing. I'm just giving you sort of tips and bits that I've picked up through experience, and things that I've experimented with to see if I can create an effect. And that's the other side of it. You've got to be prepared to sort of, let me try it this way. So I've got lots of little sketchbooks with little ideas in that I've tried. So always try them in some sort of sketchbook or on a spare piece of paper before you actually put them onto the work that you're doing to see that they work. But you'll be surprised at what you can learn just by experimenting. And mix your medias. I mean, if you're doing a face, the other thing what some people do is they do the actual base skin layer with a watercolour, and then they use a colour pencil on top. And that's quite all right, and you probably might get a smoother finish. You can use watercolour pens. You could use pastels, I suppose. You could use anything really. Just try it and see what happens and what the outcome is. Okay then, so we're going to start now with these skin tones. So we did the bottom part of this eye. That one's quite fine. So now we've got to sort of just finish this section here. Okay. So we're going to start with the light flesh, and what I'm doing is I'm just loosely holding the pencil in the middle, and I'm doing sort of large circular strokes. I'm going all over except for where I can see lots of highlight. Now I'm trying to keep it in the direction of form. So what you've got to imagine is, if you imagine the face as, you know, there's bone structure underneath. So if you can imagine where the bones are and how the skin is stretched or moved over those bones, that's the sort of direction you want to be moving with your pencil. So the nose is here. So the bridge of the nose. So you're going to have a bone in there. So the skin's going to sort of go across the nose. So you've also got to imagine the direction in which she's sort of facing. So this skin tone here is going to come down here like this, into this, and then it's coming into the eye here. This is where it comes into the eye. Okay, so the skin then is stretched over from the eye there, and it goes towards the cheekbone. Okay, so I'm doing my circular motion here. Okay, we're coming up here again. So now I'm moving my direction slightly, and I'm coming up to the nose area here. So this is all the nose area. So now this is the highlight, but we put the white on, so I'm still going to go over it with this light flesh. So then that moves the direction now into where the eye is there. So constantly looking at my reference photo. This is where the brow bone is. So everybody assumes that the nose just finishes there, sort of there. But it doesn't, it actually comes up here into your forehead. So, looking at my reference photograph, I'm just doing loose, fairly loose circular motions. I mean, if this was a bit further away, if the photograph had been taken at a little bit further distance, I would be using a lot smaller skin. You know, when I'm doing skin, I sort of work, if you like, I would start off very light, and I would use very, very tiny circular motions like that. I'll zoom in and show you. As I say, we are working quite close with, oops, it's gone out of focus a bit there. So there. Yeah, so very light and very tiny circular motions like that, because you get a lot of a smoother blend, and it does cover a lot more of the texture and the tooth of the paper. So you can lay, by the time when you layer up, you are actually going to start getting, so that's going to fill a little bit more tooth of the paper. It's the same pressure, no different, just another layer, like that. And you can keep layering up and layering up. But you get a smoother looking piece of work. And then if you want at the end of it, you can burnish it. And you can see it will look one heck of a lot smoother. So I don't know if you can see there, but it's starting to look a lot smoother. I mean, I would have put a lot more layers on, but we're now working on something that, if you look, is quite close up, so you can see you've got quite a lot of texture in there. So I am working a lot looser than what I would normally. Okay, I mean, on subsequent layers I will do it a bit tighter, but just for the initial layers I'm doing it fairly loosely. But as long as I'm covering the skin. Okay, so I'm going over all of this section. I've gone over the highlight as well, because I've put white on there, so okay. Coming up here. Something I forgot to do is turn my pencil around, and that's what happens. So I've got a flat-ended pencil now. That's my fault. Usually I keep moving it around so it keeps it sort of really well shaped. Okay, so I've put a base layer down, so I'm going to zoom back out now. Find my zoom. Zoom out a little bit now. So we've got a base layer And I mean, you can see already it's looking a little bit textured. Right then, so now I'm going to go on to the next tone. So now we're going to use the salmon, which is a little bit darker. So all the areas now, so this one I will not be putting in the light highlight areas, so the lightest areas I'll avoid, but I'll go over everything else, everything except the lightest areas. So just coming out of here, coming from the eyebrow up here, and so all of that area there, it gets a little bit lighter as we're coming down here. So don't forget, where you're coming into an area where you want it to sort of blend into a lighter section, just pull off your pressure a little bit. Okay. So right where, so we'll sort of light up to about here, this is where we get the highlight. So pulling off the pressure a little bit there. And then coming down the bottom. This is all a lot darker. Up to about there where it gets a bit lighter. So I've got a bit of a highlight there. Looking at the shapes all the time. Coming into there. Coming out of the eyebrow there. This is where we start to hit the lighter area, so this is where I'm pulling back on my pressure. Pull off my pressure there a little bit because it's getting lighter there. You can see we've got this line coming up here. So the highlight, so if you keep looking, as I say, at your photograph. We've got a bit of a lighter area just here, so pull off my colour there, turn around here. Some colour down here. That's where it gets a bit lighter there. And then put some colour in here. Okay, so that's a little bit more. So you can see the skin now starting to build up, and you can see where these lighter areas are going to be. I mean, obviously we've got to make sure that they finish really soft. Right then, so the next colour, I'm going to use the dusky pink. So now this is where I start to look at where I'm going to see these colours. So we saw the dusky pink here. Okay, so these are where you get the cooler looking areas, a little, or more pinky areas. So if you look down here, this is quite a pinky area. I've actually got, I wondered what that was, so a little bit of graphite in there. Now I might not get it all out, but that's it, it's looking better. So if you look now, I am actually making my strokes a little bit tighter. Okay, and if you look, I'm looking now and I can see we've got quite a pinky area here and here. So I'm going to use this one, I'm going to use a bit more pressure, but as I move into the lighter area, I'm going to start to pull back on the pressure, and then we've got sort of a pinkish, a little bit of pinky in there, up here, so it goes all the way up this side here. Okay, so let's concentrate on that bit first, and this little bit here. We've got some pink here. So, right, get a sharp pencil. Well, it doesn't have to be too sharp. It can be a little bit blunt. If it's too sharp, you might not get the stroke. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to I'm working a lot tighter. I'm still holding the pencil quite far back, so I'm not putting on, I can't put on too much pressure. So I'll zoom in a little bit. Keep looking at my reference photograph. I'm going over this darker colour and back out into this area here where I can see the pink. Circular motions, and then go over that bit there a few times because that's where it's darkest. But then as I'm coming out here, so that's the really light area, but we've got another bit of a lighter area which we've already put colour on. So I need to just pull off slightly, soften it in so we don't have any hard edges there. And then I'm coming down here, I've got this pink here, pull off the pressure there, so pull back off the pencil. So I'm putting even less pressure on there. Okay, and I'm coming round. Right, so the nose, I'm going to start to do it that way. Like that, so we've got quite a bit of pressure here. So can you see how this colour is now building up? Now I'm just coming down this way. So I'm using smaller strokes. I'm going to go up into the eyebrow there and just come over the top of it, and then just pull back on the pressure as I'm coming out. So you've got this little bit of a shadow which you will get around where your eyebrow is there. So you do that, and then as you're coming out, just lift the pressure off so it blends nicely into the other tone that you've already got there. Okay, so we've got quite a bit of a pinky tone here, and then as we come down this side here, just release the pressure a little bit, and then it sort of comes in here. Around here, a little bit darker there. Okay, and then we've got this bit here that's sort of the nose section. It lightens off here, and then round here got the. Now I'm going over where we did the etching a little bit. It's only because I'm only doing a light pressure, but if you look, what it does put some of the darker tone in there a little bit, because if you look at this section, it's white, yes, but you've still got these little flecks. So by putting the embossing in, and then by putting a bit of colour over the top, you'll start to see, you'll see it for yourself better there, you will see some of the colour. So you'll get a little bit of the colour differences in there, like that. And then as we come out, this pink tone is there, comes all the way up to about here, fades off a little bit. So I'm just now following and pulling back on the pressure there. Then it comes down here a little bit, and then back into this section here, what we're just doing. Okay. And then we've got a little bit of colour here. Fade it off into there. Okay. A bit of colour here. Okay. And then we've got a little bit of a pinky colour. Comes from underneath the eye. Okay, we've got this light patch just there. Okay.